Hello and welcome to this game review. So in this one we will talk a lot about forcing moves and how important it is to see not only your own checks, captures and attacks, but the opponent's as well. So this is a 10+0 game, so firstly I would suggest playing with longer time controls, as 10+0 is blitz chess, and from blitz chess we cannot really learn anything. We must play with a lot more time to be able to think and decide on a move after a lot of thinking, and then analyze what we were thinking and how could we find a better move as well. So there's a lot to discuss, so let's take a look. So e6, e3, and f5. So already f5 is a big mistake in the opening. This move does not really help black in the fight for the center. It also opens up the king for no reason. Also, in the future, it closes down our bishop in case we play e5 at some point. In the opening, we must fight for the center with pawns, develop pieces as quickly as possible, and castle the king as quickly as possible as well. If we don't, a lot of bad things can happen. Now f5, knight f6, knight bishop b4, b6. So now black is trying to develop through here, and he plays d5. This is a huge positional mistake, because now black's bishop wants to go to d7, but after d5 it will be blocked. Also, now that black has traded the dark squared bishop, the square on e5 is very weak, and there will be no pawns to defend it. So this is called a very weak square. Instead, black should aim to put his pawns on dark squares, knight d7, e5 at some point, and try to control the squares with the pawns, because he does not have a dark squared bishop anymore. But after d5, now we get some stonewall Dutch structure, and knight bd7 is played. But this is just a horrible blunder because of a simple forcing move. Checks, captures, and attacks. There are no checks. Well, there's queen h5, but it doesn't work. Captures. There's one capture, but it doesn't really do much. Attacks. What can white attack? Always start with the biggest piece. Can he attack the queen? Turns out he can. And here the queen is trapped, and black will have to resign. So games like this should be avoided. And here black has only used 17 seconds for 8 moves, or 9 moves. And the game is over. So this kind of shows that we're not really doing the best that we can. And if we don't try our best, we can't really improve. The only way to improve is to first try our best with the tools that we currently have. With bishop b5, a6 again, knight c6 wins. Okay, bishop c6, queen f3. So now white is starting to push pawns on the king side, though he should probably try to castle as soon as possible, and maybe try to again play something like knight c6 at some point. Okay, h4, b5. So now black is in a very uncomfortable position, but he can escape by exchanging some pieces. As a general rule, when we have less space, we should try to exchange pieces, and here the white pieces are very annoying, which we can get rid of by taking here and playing knight d4. Next we can play bishop b7 to exchange the light square bishop, and with so many pieces off the board, now black will be quite well placed, and this e5 pawn is not going to be very dangerous. We are also threatening to take on c3 to double the pawns here, so the position is quite good for black. But now b5, again, black doesn't finish development. Again, we must finish development in the opening. This is the most important part. Castles, which we already done, finishing development and fighting for the center. We've done everything except developing the pieces. But now knight takes c5 finally is played, and now this is a very good move. White takes back, knight e4. Until here, still black has only used 40 seconds. So one thing is that this is simply not a serious game of chess, unfortunately. And one thing I would suggest is to not really analyze such games, because there is no thought process involved here, so we don't really know what we were thinking on these moves. So again, play 15+10 or longer. And 15+10 should be the minimum time control if we want to improve and analyze our games. Now h6, and black plays g6, bishop b4, and bishop d7, and now finally black gets developed, c5, b4. So now black starts playing on the queen side very nicely. White is still uncastled, so his king will also be quite weak. Queen h3, and now queen b5 is a nice move, trying to invade, and f3. Here black moves the knight to g5, which looks like the only safe square. But surely before making a move, we must look at the opponent's checks, captures, and attacks. It turns out after the queen moves basically anywhere that attacks the knight can't go anywhere else. So this basically means that we did not calculate anything from our opponent, and we're only playing by ourselves, more or less. And so before making any move, we must think about the opponent's checks, captures, attacks, and yeah, here the knight is trapped. So there's a question of what to do here. So we should probably just give up the knight, as it can't go anywhere anyway. And how can we give up the knight? Well, at least let's get some pawns for it. We can take here, maybe play b3. Now we have a strong passed pawn. The threat is b2, and we may even win this bishop. And black is simply winning as this king is in the center. Black will get the bishop on a5, and the game should end quite soon. Set knight g5. Now black gets a pawn, and here queen g4 should have been played by white with two ideas, one of them queen e6, one of them queen e2, trying to exchange queens, because if the queens are exchanged, then of course white being a piece up would win the game. But queen h3 is played, and now queen d3, black invades with the queen. Here white takes on e6, queen e3, so now black should be winning because of the terribly weak king. And here e3 is played with the idea of playing queen d2, but again, we did not look at the opponent's forcing moves at all, it seems. Here white has, well, not really many checks. Captures, there's, I guess, this pawn capture, but attacks, rook d1, which is played, stops queen d2 as well. And now black loses the initiative and has to go back with the queen. So instead, black could have simply played the move b3, threatening checkmate in one move, and actually white has no way to defend. So the game just ends here. Instead, e3 is played in 2 seconds, rook d1, queen f5. And now black offers a queen exchange, but exchanging queens when down a bishop is usually not a very good idea. Here, black should continue attacking the opponent's king, as if he doesn't, then his position will just be lost because he is down a bishop, and white also has a passed pawn here, so he cannot exchange queen. Now if he does, which happened in the game, white gets kind of comfortable with his pieces. He starts pushing the e-pawn. Could have also exchanged some pawns first with e6, e2, rook e1, and now the opponent's king is not weak. It's actually a very good piece, and it can go here to play rook takes e2, and white is winning. White plays bishop c7 instead, which is a very nice forcing move and fork. So again, before playing rook e5, we must think about the opponent's checks, captures, and attacks. And here there are no checks. Captures, there's one capture, more or less. Attacks, well, we have two rooks. Both of them can be attacked. Bishop c7. And now the game is over. So, unfortunately, for black, he was lost, he was winning as well. But there were just simply a lot of mistakes here. And to answer your question of how to improve to 2000, well, firstly, we cannot just continue playing 10+0 games, as this it will not really improve our chess. In such time control, we cannot think before making moves. And if we cannot think, this means we are only guessing. We are guessing, maybe our move is good, maybe our move is bad, who knows. And so we do not want to leave this to guesswork. We want to be able to think about our moves before making the moves. And before making any move, we must check the opponent's checks, captures, and attacks. We must check ours as well. And only then can we decide on a move. So this is basically blitz chess, so I would suggest playing with longer time controls, and then we can see how you do. And I do believe with more time, the games will be a lot more qualitative.